On? Is this on? Please forgive our lateness. We are waiting for Commissioner Simmons. He should be here in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. The man of the hour is here, so we'll initiate roll call. Deborah?
Sure. Vice Mayor Carter,
Present.
Commissioner Daly.
Here.
Commissioner Vignola.
Present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Here.
City Manager Goodrum.
Here.
City Attorney Hearn.
Here.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence, and I ask that you give special thought to the plight of the federal workers and their family. Okay, and now we have Braden Hoskins, who is going to lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Braden. And we have a special gift for you. This is, here, we'll turn around so they can take your picture. Mom want a picture? Thank you, and thank you so much. So this evening, we have no proclamations or special recognitions, so we will move on to public comment. Is there anyone that is assigned to speak?
Vice Mayor, I have one signed speaker, and that would be Jelani Harvey.
Jelani, if you can give us your address?
I put it on the paper. You mean say the address?
I don't know.
Okay, sure. 8550 North Sherman Circle, number 206, Miramar, Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening to the Coral Springs City Commission. My name is Jelani Harvey. Foremost, I sit as a supervisor on the Broward Soil and Water Conservation District, but I'm here tonight in a separate capacity on behalf of New Leaders Council, Broward chapter. We are a national organization. We work on trying to train and get more young people involved with social action, whether that's volunteering, getting involved with different debates, running for office. And we're part of a curriculum program, and this year I'm Institute co-chair. We do a 5-month training program. We try to go to a different city and different parts of the county each month, and our institute is starting this month in January. I'm here on behalf of the chapter because one of the locations in March or April, we're trying to host a weekend session here in Coral Springs. As institute co-chair, we have a limited budget. We spend money on lunch over the 5 months for our speakers, for our fellows getting printed materials. I do understand there is a fee associated with if people want to have events at Coral Springs City facilities. I'm here to see if the commission would consider waiving those fees for us for one of the weekends. If it was in April, it would just be for one day. We're hosting in April a joint session with Palm Beach. We're trying to do something in Boca Raton with the Palm Beach County chapter and something at the north end of the county. And so that's why we're looking at Coral Springs and a number of different other cities. So I'm here to request if the commission would consider waiving the facility fees for us to host a session at one of your facilities in March or April.
On a weekend? Well, that's something we'll have to discuss prior to then, but in the meantime, what about Robert from Special Events? Wouldn't he be the person that knows what facilities and costs
Yes,
and things like
so
that?
Madam Vice Mayor, we do have a process that we could bring back to, you're talking about April, we could bring back for you to consider the next meeting.
Okay,
Just don't have that in front of us. And
I understand.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
We'll
for
get
your time.
back to you.
We'll consider it.
Anyone else would like to public speak? Public comment.
Hello, my name is Yara Domiati. I am a Realtor with Keller Williams Realty. And I just wanted to ask that we move forward with the pilot program for the open house signs or any temporary signs, and just give us a chance to go ahead and, try it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Yara. Anyone else like to public comment? You can speak to this one. You don't have to go all the way.
Hi, everybody.
You can pull it towards you, too.
Okay.
It bends.
My name is Michael Longo. I'm with Blue Realty. I brought several of the agents at my office, and I just wanted to second what Yara said regarding the pilot program for the open house. We heavily rely on these open houses for our income. It would drastically affect us, drastically affect all of our incomes. And there are a lot of realtors I know that couldn't make it here tonight that asked me to speak on their behalf, because open houses for us in our community is huge, and we develop a lot of lead generation, a lot of buyers we sell the houses to, and it would be catastrophic for us. So if we could continue that pilot program as suggested, that would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Longo. Any other public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. On to consent agenda. Do we have anybody who wants to pull anything?
Madam Vice Mayor, we have a one
Oh, I'm
public
sorry, I
hearing.
missed number one. Sorry, community shuttle. Rick?
Then after Rick speaks, we'll open it to the public.
Okay.
This is a housekeeping item. Back in November, the commission approved the half-fare, but Broward County Transit informed us that the notice for the commission meeting was not enough, the proper notice to meet the federal requirements. They needed a newspaper ad, so we have done that for this meeting. So we're just asking you to hold the public hearing and reaffirm that the half-fare would be in effect.
Okay, don't leave. I need to talk. Okay, so the public hearing is open. Does anybody wish to comment on the community shuttle half-fare policy? Hearing none, the hearing is closed.
Excuse me, may I say something?
Yes.
Just
Discussion.
wanted to let my fellow commissioners know, I met with the Broward Transit Department earlier this week, and once the penny sales tax was passed, they were able to get enough funding to fully fund all community bus shuttles throughout Broward County. So I hope that in the future we'll look at getting rid of that 50 cent, I think, or half cent, whatever it is, fare for the community shuttle. That way it could increase ridership. We're one of the few cities that still charge for that, and that has something to do with our ridership. So I hope that we can take a look at that in the future.
How long have we been charging for the bus, the 50-cent fare?
I'd have to defer to Rick, but we can certainly reach out to, and if they're willing to pay for that, we'd be happy to amend the agreement.
We've been charging, I think it's about 6 years, we initially started charging 25 cents. Back when we were in the heart of the recession, the county had been paying the city $20 an hour per bus. They lowered that rate to $15 an hour per bus. That's when we started the 25-cent fare, and then I believe about 4 years ago, we went to 50 cents per ridership. And one of the reasons that we actually went to a fare, when we were not charging anything, our bus company's buses were getting a lot of vandalism and a lot of riders that were riding for free and using it for the wrong reasons. So the fair stopped a lot of that, but our ridership has dropped almost in half over the last 3 years, so to bring that up. And the county said, I think it's somewhere around April is when they hope to have that in effect, where they'll fund the entire amount.
So the ridership dropped in the last 3 years?
Over the last 2 to 3 years, we've dropped almost in half. At the
Really?
peak, we were at almost 100,000 riders per year. This past year, we were right around 50,000 per year.
Wow. Wonder what that attributed to. You think it's the fee?
Number of things, I'm sure.
Maybe we could go back to the lower fee, because I like the fact that, you know, when you have skin in the game, you respect it a little more. I think so. Thanks, Rick.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Rick, back to you.
For consent.
Oh, I thought we did consent. I'm sorry, I skipped over that again. Anybody want to pull anything from consent?
Move consent?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Synchronized swimming, instructor services.
That's part of consent.
Madam Vice Mayor, we're on item 6, ordinance 2018-107.
Sorry, thank you.
Yep. I'll read the title. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, amending Section 190.1 of the Land Development Code entitled Schedule of Civil Penalties to be consistent with the changes to Chapter 18 entitled Signs, amending Chapter 18 entitled Signs to be consistent with current state and federal laws, amending Section 1-8.1 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Waiverable Offenses to be consistent with the changes to Chapter 18 entitled Signs, repealing Section 6-12 entitled Election Signs, providing for severability, providing for convocation, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date. We had first hearing. We opened it. That set second reading for tonight, and we have Julie here to give a presentation.
Everyone, Julie Kurlak with Development Services. Just briefly, we wanted to go over with the commission the changes you requested at first reading. They've been incorporated into the ordinance itself, as well as Exhibit C that's in your backup, in case that's a little easier to find everything. We incorporated the changes such as increasing the number of temporary signs that a person could have to 6, to include that additional sign along the arterial and the collector roadways. We included the size going from 9 by 24 to the recommended 18 by 24. The commission also directed us to look into including some type of contact information on the sign. So staff is recommending that name and phone number be included. Just 1 inch, so that way it doesn't take up too much of the sign or the real estate of the sign on it. And that would be in the lower right-hand corner.
And can be handwritten.
Can be handwritten. Yes, the sign itself should be professionally made. We
Right.
did include that. But if they want to add that, that's fine. And then we just clarified ADA requirements as well to make sure that they don't end up in any sight triangles or in any where they're not supposed to be on the sidewalks. As you may remember, staff is recommending a 1-year program so that we could come back to you in 6 months and you can reevaluate the program, make sure it's going the way you're expecting it to be. This code has already started looking at different ways to track where the signs are, the types of signs and things like that, so we're already starting to work on that aspect of it. The only other change to the ordinance is we did clarify banner signs as well, and that those be for businesses within the first 30 days of receiving their business tax receipt. I touched very briefly at first reading about that we know that there's going to be an outreach component to this, an educational component for sure. Not just for temporary signs, but as you know, the whole sign code is changing. Most importantly, we did want to point out, and you do have a handout, I think that made it to you already, that outlines more specifics, but we've been working very closely with the Realtor Association, particularly Adam Sanders, their Senior Director of Government Affairs, and he outlined their personal outreach program they're going to do for their 32,000 members, including,
Is he the only one you're working with? Because there's Miami also.
We mostly dealt with him, yes.
Okay, you need to reach out to Miami because they have a
Absolutely.
Broward division as well.
Oh, okay, absolutely. We'll for
And then
sure
there's
send
the
it to
South
them.
Broward Board as well.
Okay. So their program includes emailing their members, social media, updating their website, and as well as direct, conversations with their members as well. On the city side, of course, we want to reach out to our local sign companies who we deal with all the time. They're in our office. We're going to reach out to them to let them know, again, the changes both in the permanent and the temporary signs. We're going to continue to educate our own staff, both at the zoning staff for when people come in, so we can let them start knowing the changes for when they're starting to think about what they're even going to do with their sign as a new business. as well as the code staff for when they're enforcing things. And then we're going to provide information to any groups that we think has a good outreach arm, such as the chamber, that we want to reach as many people as we can. With that, we're recommending approval, adoption of ordinance 2018-107, as well as establishing the one-year pilot program as outlined in the ordinance. Questions?
Questions? Larry? Commissioner Vignola?
So there's 6 signs allowed on the right-of-way. That's per person.
Correct.
But in front of my own property, I'm only allowed to put 3?
On your own property, you're allowed to have 3. And then within the rights-of-way, you would be allowed to have the 6.
And that includes any type of temporary sign that's non-discriminatory, whether it's real estate or political, whatever.
Whatever it may be.
But on my property, if I go ahead and I get it off the right-of-way and I put it on my property, then I can go ahead and put signs I want. So if
Anytime you
I'm
want
back
within-
onto my property line, okay. That's it.
Approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Can we discuss?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were, go ahead.
Second for purpose of discussion, go ahead.
Spent some time, days this past weekend down in Coral Gables, and look at their real estate signs. You don't see them everywhere. You look at their property values, it hasn't changed. Property values in Coral Gables do very, very well. But what I did notice is when I was on my way down there one day and on my way back, there were a lot of open house signs, to the point where I counted them between Atlantic Boulevard and Coral Ridge Drive on Lakeview Drive alone. There was 29 open house signs. They were everywhere. When you come into our city and you get off the highway, what does our city look like? And I just want everyone to understand that, right? And I get it, for the realtors, and it's something that they're used to, having open house signs and everything around here. I think today's day and age with the internet, with people having smartphones and different things, you can find those things. But for me to sit there and come off the road and on my way to my house and just see signs all different way, all different shapes, sizes, whatever, that's kind of a concern for me. I mean, it really is. And I want everyone to understand that during our retreat, we all discussed the fact that we felt code enforcement was a little lacking and needed some more help. I would love to ask staff, Mike, if that's available, to ask staff how they were going to go ahead and enforce this. When we talk about you can have open house signs over there, you can have things over there, are we going to count up all the signs around the city? Like, how does our staff handle that?
Julie?
Especially over the weekend.
Code enforcement, I mean, they're going to do the best they can, code compliance, excuse me, is going to do the best they can. We won't be adding any additional staff to do that. And, the code, they work certain hours, so between those hours that they're not on duty, the signs would remain there until somebody comes back on duty and can pull it. They won't be going in all the residential streets, of course. It would be too hard to do with the amount of staff we have, and anyway. But they're going to do the best they can with the resources they have. We have 2 people that are really dedicated to signs right now, so.
Commissioner
continue to do
Vignola, typical open house hours are anywhere from like 11 to 4-ish, and we pay for those signs, and so they're important to us. And picking them up is important to us because we need to use them again. And they do generate the drive-by traffic, which is a lead-generating source.
And I would 100% understand that. And look, I know a lot of realtors, they go ahead, they put their signs out, they're nice, they're neat, they're professional looking, they don't put them on angles and things. But this weekend, it was kind of crazy. It was. I will tell you that the other concern is, once those go ahead and go in, and, they might go ahead and a realtor goes ahead and puts their 5 up, their 1 on the main roadway. But the moment that one of those tow companies that were going around putting up $49 tows all around, when they see that there's some out there, they're going to be putting them out there too. And other businesses are going to go ahead and start doing that. I just want to, it's not just a realtor thing, and I understand where the realtors are upset the fact that we're even going ahead and doing this, and the pilot program's kind of a happy medium for them. But my concern is not them necessarily, it's all the other businesses. And to sit there and in this, we need the adjacent property owner's permission. And I mean, Joy, you made the comment the last time we discussed this, that you're not going to go ahead and do that. Well, and that's a problem. So we're going to go ahead and pass something that you say is impossible. And that's kind of ridiculous to me.
One distinction and a difference I'd like to make is the fact that the real estate open house signs are temporary. The tow truck driver sign is not. So
But again, we
go
can't
and
discriminate
pick
based
ours
off of
up. I
content.
get that.
And that's
I
the
get
issue.
that.
So do we expect code enforcement to go around and find out? I mean, I don't know. I think this is not very well thought out. I think we really should have gone ahead and looked at this in many other ways. And I understand trying to appease the realtors, and they're business does rely on this, but we have to look at everything across the board because we cannot do this, we cannot discriminate based off of content. So when we allow them, if we're not checking up on them, if we're not knocking on doors to say, hey, do you have permission to go ahead and put this out there? When the tow companies and they go ahead and they put it out there, or any other business goes ahead and they put a sign out there, we can't go ahead and knock on those doors either.
So one of the differences that it's one on the major arterial road, and the rest of those, I don't think the tow truck company is going to be in a residential area.
But here's the thing, Joy, honestly, when we look at, this weekend on Lakeview Drive alone, right? When you have all those signs, a lot of them were from the same realtors, and they were in the medians, not just on the sides, they were in the medians, and they're I have a feeling that code enforcement is not gonna be going out there and being able to tell, when you have one around the city, I mean, let's face facts. The code enforcement can't go ahead and go to every single street in the city and go around. It's gonna be very hard for them to do that unless we require, when people were to go ahead and put up a temporary sign, unless we require a permit ahead of time to do that. Or even filing it with the city to say, hey, guess what, we're gonna be putting this sign up here, whatever, and just filing it with the city and sending over something like that. I don't see how there's a way to enforce it and to stop somebody from going ahead and putting them over off of Wiles Road and then one off of Atlantic Boulevard.
I understand what you're saying, I'm sorry.
May I
Go
ask Julie a
ahead.
question? Julie, so, good evening, thank you. Code enforcement, you say they do not pick up signs on weekends, correct?
They do.
They do,
But
okay.
they're
What
only
are the
their limited
hours?
hours.
What are the hours?
They're from 7 to 2 on weekends.
7 to 2. So even if we didn't allow signs, period, if someone put a sign down from, let's say 3 o'clock until 12 o'clock at night, there's nothing that we could do at all, correct?
If they come in at 7 o'clock.
But
'cause
let's
the
say we had no signs, period, right? And they read the ordinance and it says, okay, you can't have a sign from 7 to 2, right? Or they know that because they're watching our commission meetings because they're involved citizens. And they say, okay, well, on Saturday at 3:30, I'm going to put a sign out for this birthday party or something like that. Could they do that? And that sign would be there until code comes back to work or something like that.
It would be, but they're allowed to have them from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So if somebody puts one out at, say, 6:30, it would stay till the next day. And if a code officer saw it at 7 a.m. the next day, if it's before 10 a.m., so they would pull that sign.
Okay. And so thank you for answering
Sure.
that. And
A point of
Commissioner,
if I could, I just want to clarify. It is a large city, and the level of staffing we have, you can drive around the city right now and obviously see signs that are out of compliance. So I just want to kind of be clear that even with the current staffing we have right now, our level of service probably isn't able to address all of it. So just point that out.
and I will say, as much as I love the Realtors Association, I'm also thinking about every other sign as well, especially election signs. If you know anything about me, I absolutely love election time, and I love that, for people to get out there and, let the residents know about their campaign, while being, of course, in compliance with code. So I think we ought to give this an opportunity to see how it goes. I mean, it's a pilot program, and that's kind of how I feel on that one.
Commissioner Daley?
Thanks, Vice Mayor. So I share a lot of the concerns of Commissioner Vignola, and I've expressed them in previous meetings. Actually, the first time this came up months ago, because I want folks to realize that this is potentially opening Pandora's box. And I use the example of the snipe signs that pop up about we buy ugly houses and all sorts of stuff that are just going to go run rampant. That being said, look, we've looked at this a lot over the last couple months. I know staff has put in a lot of time. I know we've talked to the Realtors Association, but I want to stress that it's not just the Realtor signs, it's all of the different signs. So, look, I'm comfortable. I voted for it last time. I'll vote for it again to support the pilot program, but this message is to everyone sitting in that fourth row and all of the other Realtors. Make sure you police your own folks, because it is a pilot program. And look, folks, I'm not going to be here next year. I'm not going to be here one way or the other, whether this comes back for review or not. So I would implore whoever is sitting up here at that time to be extremely critical and fully assess what's gone on with the pilot program. And if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean you just pack the deck and pack the room with a bunch of Realtors that need it to stay now. Be objective and look at the program and make sure that your folks are following the rules. And this goes not just for the Realtors, but for anybody. I understand it's an extensive burden on staff. I know that they're underfunded. Code enforcement, in my opinion, is underfunded and understaffed as it is. And I've mentioned that in our previous meetings, and I'll continue to mention that. So maybe it's time we seriously examine their budget. And if we really want to make aesthetics a priority, start putting our money where our mouth is. Then again, that's also not going to be my decision come October. So it's easy for me to sit here and say. But what I would say to the realtors in the audience and those who are going to watch this, can't fall asleep tonight and wanted something to put them to sleep, make sure you police your own, because this commission will revoke the pilot program in 6 months if it's not effective. If we're seeing snipe signs everywhere, that's going to be a serious issue, and that's my concern, but tonight you have my support.
Nola.
I just want everyone to understand, when Commissioner Simmons was talking about, campaign signs out there, we've always been by the rules of you don't put the campaign signs in the right-of-way. So we never, I never did that, and I put out a lot of signs over the years, and so just everyone's aware of that. This is closer to the road. This is not on your personal property. If you're going to put it on your property, that's different. And my concern is not the realtors not to have open house signs. It's just to go ahead, go the extra mile, knock on the door, get someone's permission to put it in front of their home. That's it. Because if someone puts an open house sign in front of my home without my permission, I'm going to yank it. And that's the thing that I think people need to understand. And honestly, it's happened in my home a couple times based off of, I guess, my location or whatever. But that's a big concern of mine. And it's not an anti-realtor thing or anything like that, but I would hope that code, when they go ahead and they're enforcing the new rules, the pilot program, that they're going to take photos and examples of any of the violations that take place.
I understand.
I mean, any of the violations. And that way, when we go ahead and we review this, and look, I don't want to make it where, where we have to go ahead and revoke this, but I think we need updates on this if it's getting a little out of control, to say, hey, listen, this is the problem, whatever, and then we can go ahead and regroup and find other ways to do it. But, when we're sitting there saying that there's no way to enforce it, when Commissioner Carter, you're Vice Mayor, you sit there and said there's no way to go ahead and ask someone the permission to go ahead and put it on their property, that they're not going to do it. Why are we passing this that way? Then say, hey, you know what, you don't need permission. You don't need permission to knock on somebody's door. To knowingly pass something that we know is not going to be adhered to is it's silly. And I've been here for a little over 8 years. I've never gone ahead and seen the commissioners go ahead and vote on anything that we knew was not going to be adhered to.
Commissioner Vignola, the comment that I made about knocking on somebody's door to get their permission, most of us are working families. And me, when I was a new agent, I knocked on that door because I was looking for business. And if they weren't home, I left my business card so they knew why there was a sign in their yard. They could call me if there was a problem. But that's marketing, right? But the majority of people's doors I knocked on, they weren't home. And so then you don't have permission. So that's why I'm saying that's a hindrance. And again, these are temporary signs that are going to be there for a couple of hours. Some people do open houses an hour. The most I've ever seen an open house is 4 hours. And then I want my signs back. I paid for them. They're designer signs.
I understand, but you're talking about just the realtors. What's going to stop one business from going ahead and putting up a temporary sign in front of another business's right-of-way property? And remember, right, so if you go ahead and you're running for office, and let's say Commissioner Simmons is running against you, not that it's going to happen, but without permission, can he put his campaign sign in front of your house in the right-of-way? And remember that if you go ahead and you remove his sign without permission of the property owner, which at that point would be the city of Coral Springs, you're violating a big law not governed by the city of Coral Springs when it comes to election signs. And so that, I'm not looking at just a realtor. I know that's what everyone's focusing on here. But I'm looking at the greater good across the board for everyone in the city of Coral Springs. So that, and that's the reason why I won't be able to support this, so.
Okay, I understand. I'm just concerned about people's opportunity to earn a living.
Vice Mayor, if I may clarify really quickly, when I was answering Commissioner Vignola's question, I just want to make sure it was clear. You can have 3 signs on your personal property, 3 temporary signs, but what was unlimited is what they can say on it. We won't be able to limit that, so. But you could have 3 temporary signs on your own property.
So the commission's gonna go ahead and wants to approve something that would allow people to go ahead and put out 6 signs across the city without permission is what we're saying, right? In the right-of-way, but in front of my own property that I own, I can only put 3 signs. I just want everyone to understand.
Just to clarify that, there is a requirement for the permission of the budding
There
owner.
is, but-
It's not in writing, but there's a requirement for it.
But this commission's under the understanding of that's not gonna be a thing, and we're not gonna go ahead and put any way, shape, or form to go ahead and enforce that. And you're saying it's impossible for it to happen, and we're not gonna put anything in this to go ahead and enforce that, but in front of my own property that I own, I can't do that? I think that's ridiculous.
I realize you said you've had signs in front of your house, but they were real estate signs, right? Not mattress or taxes or anything like that.
Real estate signs, correct. But I can only put 3 signs in front of my own property, but realtors or anybody else will be able to go ahead and put 6 out anywhere in the city on the right-of-way, on property that they own. But on property I own, I'm gonna be limited to 3. I have a problem with that. I think the on your own property, you should be, at least be able to meet the same amount that people out to put on property that's not theirs.
6 signs on your property?
What if there's an election and there's 3 people up here running for office and a 4th? That could happen, and,
I thought we were only allowed 3 on our property.
sorry, Joe, I'm not gonna put your sign up
Currently, we are only allowed 3 on our property, right, okay, that's
And
great.
with the new ordinance,
with the new ordinance.
well, I think there's a limit now as well, and I think it is 3.
Well, guess I'll be violating that one.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
You have a motion and a second already?
Oh, we did?
Yep.
Thank you, sorry. I
Commissioner
got
Daley,
lost in the
Commissioner Simmons.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Passes 3-1. Okay. Number 7, appointments to the Public Art Committee. This is a reappointment and a new appointment. The reappointment is Candy Children, and the new appointment is Jackie Bolden, and they are both good assets to the Public Art Committee. I'd like someone,
I think you can move it, so I'll move it. Move to
Great.
approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And number 8, appointment to the Neighborhood and Environmental Committee. I believe that's you,
I would
Commissioner
move to
Daley.
approve Magdalene Exantis to the
Second.
Neighborhood Environmental Committee.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Any additional discussions before we go to Commission Communications? Commissioner Communications. Let's start with you, Josh. Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. City Manager Goodrum, I know we have a workshop coming up, and so I was hoping that we could, maybe for 5 minutes or so, discuss local procurement or preference, adding that to the code somehow, some way, if we could. Is that possible?
If the commission wants to discuss an item, put that on there, then obviously we can do that. I know we discussed at our retreat what items we were going to focus on over the next 6 months. That wasn't one of the items that was prioritized, but if the majority of the commission wants to do that, we can definitely do that.
Few minutes, not a lot. Yeah.
Fine with it.
Is there staff research that the commission would like to have prior to that? Is that going to be a discussion led by the commission of what would?
I mean, if I can definitely bring some things if you would like. I don't mind.
I just want to make sure that.
You want to know what their response is?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
what-
Well, I
yeah.
mean, if you, obviously, maybe the best way is to where, the local procurement is not so strong to where we're putting ourselves into, a position where we're losing out on money by just trying to, stick with something local, right? Just something that at least gives them a bit of a leg up when it comes to like the bidding processes or things like that. Is there anything like that, or?
Clarification of what the process is.
Yeah, I think the best thing is, the staff to look at it so it can educate everybody, and I don't think it could be done next week if it's going to be staff doing it, but I think,
At some point, whenever it's feasible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, does the majority of the commission want to move forward with that discussion?
My concern is, like the city manager said, we put forth and a lot of things on staff to go ahead and look at over the next few months. I don't know if we're going to go ahead and overburden, or if we should remove one of the other items that we talked about discussing over the next 6 months to go ahead and fit this in, or do we wait until we get our new colleagues up here? Because I know we were talking about 6 months, we gave you quite a full plate, and then, when we have our new colleagues up here, we can go ahead and reevaluate like we had discussed and add some of the other things. Because honestly, there's some other things I'd like to discuss too, but
Perhaps we should stick to what we already agreed with and then just move that down the road.
Okay.
Not get rid of it,
I
just
said okay.
later.
I said okay. All right, I'll
Okay.
continue on. All right. I will just say Amendment 4, also known as the Rights Restoration Amendment, overwhelmingly passed by Floridians, took took effect on January 8th. So returning citizens are now able to register to vote as long as they were not convicted of a violent crime. So no longer do they have to go through an archaic and slow clemency process to have their voting rights restored. So in that same vein, if you have not registered to vote, it doesn't matter what has happened in your past, please register to vote. And that call goes out to every resident in Coral Springs to make sure you get registered and vote so you can participate in our March 12th mayoral election. So please make sure you do that and get your voices heard. And the last thing I want to say to anyone living in the city who happens to be considered as a non-essential federal employee, please reach out to us or to me and let us know your story. Let us know how you're being impacted by the government shutdown. I know that I personally would love to hear from you, and I can be reached at 954-871-1314. Thank you.
Commissioner McNola.
Well, I want to start off and ask everyone to think about, imagine a government organization in Coral Springs with a multi-million-dollar budget where if you own more property, you get more votes. If you don't own property, too bad, you don't get to vote. That happens. There's 4 of those in the city of Coral Springs, the special taxing districts dealing with water drainage. In fact, as a property owner in the city, I get 1 vote, or my wife gets 1 vote, but we both don't get to vote. If you own, and let's say Commissioner Simmons were to go ahead and he were to own 400 acres, he would get 400 votes.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
And so you talk about archaic voting. This is the most archaic form of voting, I think, left in the state of Florida, maybe in the country. I believe there's 99 special taxing districts in Broward County, of which only 4 of them have voting systems like this. All 4 are located in the city of Coral Springs. So with that, I'd like to thank Representative Kristen Jacobs, who went ahead and filed a local bill to go ahead and change that to where there would be multi-million-dollar government agencies located in Coral Springs where everyone would be able to vote on who represents them. Senator Rader also made some really good points at the meeting with the local delegation. Commissioner Daley and I went down there to speak with them yesterday, I believe. And it was really nice to see the amount of support from the local delegation on that. And I know this commission has taken a stance that we feel it should be a general election for any of those government agencies. I would hope that all 4 of us would go ahead and anyone who's running for office or to make the mayor's seat come March during session would spend a lot of time going ahead and doing this, because I think it's unfair. I think a lot of times we get a lot of the headaches from the water districts because people don't know who it is that represents them. We go ahead and we have these discussions in public and they're on TV, and we campaign on them. And when we campaign, we don't just campaign to the largest property owners. There's no reason to. We go to every vote, and everybody's vote counts. And so we make sure that everyone's educated on the issues, and we, I believe, try to represent everybody throughout the community. I don't think these districts necessarily do. I think they, a lot of times, just need to represent the people with the largest amount of property owners, and I don't think it's fair for those that are elite large property owners to have all the authority with those types of entities. So I just wanted to let everyone know that Kristen Jacobs, our state representative that represents the northeast side of the city, filed a local bill on that, and it looks like everyone from Broward County delegation's in favor, and I think that's kind of neat and nice, but we need to go ahead and the fight moves on to Tallahassee. No, Commissioner Daley's got a lot of points to make on this, so I'm going to toss it over to him, but if anyone needs me for anything, my cell phone number is 954-632-7544.
Thank you, Commissioner Vignola. Commissioner Daley.
Thanks, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Vignola. Look, I actually, believe it or not, you covered a lot of it and really well, so I'm just going to kind of go just briefly a little bit deeper on this issue. If you all remember, a couple of years ago, we had discussed the idea of filing a local bill that would change the voting mechanism for the 4 local special taxing districts. We obviously supported it and moved forward and took the idea to Representative Jacobs, who ran with it last year. And there was a lot of, it was the first time we had brought it to them last year. In the local bill process, you file the local bill, you bring it to the Broward Legislative Delegation. The Broward Legislative Delegation, which is made up of all the members of the legislature in Broward, votes if they want it to move forward to Tallahassee as an actual filed bill. And you need their approval before doing that. And then there's a whole separate process once you get to Tallahassee, but obviously the first hurdle is your local delegation. And last year, I know there was a lot of skepticism. It was the first time the delegation had really heard of this issue. I don't think most folks knew this was even still a thing. Commissioner Vignola mentioned archaic. It goes back to proxy voting of landowners. It goes back to large agricultural, mostly swaths of land where those owners were able to have more say than, let's say, the handful of residents in the area, because any changes that the local district would make would impact them disproportionately. Well, we, and fast forward to 2000, what are we in now, 2019, are built out as a city. It's been a long day, man. Are built out as a city. So these are a relic of the past. They don't allow for any transparency and oversight. You've got what's called a basically proxy election. I can't even tell you when the election date is. I think most people that are in tune can tell me when the next general election is, right? What is it, the first Tuesday in November in 2020, right? Tell me when the next special election district election is. Crowd goes wild. Nobody knows. And the folks who live in these districts and who pay taxes every year and pay different rates every year and sometimes face a rate hike, right, don't even know when their board of directors are elected. That's not the right way that it should be done in 2019 in a fully built-out, mature community. So I want to credit this commission for pushing this bill idea again this year, and for Representative Jacobs for carrying the water, no pun intended, because it's the right thing to do. And look, folks, I just want to make it very clear, and I'm happy to say this to any member of any one of the local special taxing district boards. When you can afford to pay some of the top lobbying firms in the state to travel down here from Tallahassee to fight this bill that is basically going to afford your residents transparency, your priorities are out of whack. They should have the same right as every other voter that gets to vote for us, should be able to vote for those who tax them at the local level. So that's all I've got to say on that issue. I want to thank all my colleagues. I want to thank the Broward Legislative Delegation who passed it, by the way, unanimously yesterday. And I'm hopeful that we're going to continue this issue in this fight in Tallahassee. With that, I did want to mention, because it's been an ongoing issue, and I want to thank the city manager, because I know there's only so much that we can do. But if you've noticed, if you drive Sample Road, there is a different segment of lights out on Sample Road almost every night. It's really...
Only for 30 years.
But I don't understand. And I know that the county has been working on it. I know that the county says that we need major infrastructure upgrades or whatever. But it's gotten to the point where, you know, they come in, they fix a small string, and next thing you know, the following night, the string at the other end of Sample is out, and it's a larger string. So I've gotten complaints from residents. I've gotten complaints from business owners. I have public safety concerns with that when you have large swaths of the roadway not lit on Sample Road. So anything we can do to continue to kind of move that along, if we can expedite some of the infrastructure improvements, it's really kind of gotten out of hand. So I appreciate, again, the manager's efforts, but maybe we can put some additional pressure, and that's why I wanted to voice it to the rest of the commission as well. With that, if anybody needs anything, you can call me or text me at 954-778-3304. Find me on any of the social media networks, or email me at ddaly@coralsprings.org. Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Daley. So I wanted to let residents know who are concerned about the construction of the covered bridge that it will be beginning soon. We had a good meeting with the residents the other night and tried to come up with some multiple ideas on what might stop it from being damaged in the future that residents could live with. So that will be starting. I wanted to bring to my fellow commissioners' attention the plight of our seniors. You know, when I moved here, 36% of the population was under the age of 18 and 6% was seniors. Well, the seniors are pushing closer to 15% and the children have dropped to 26%. A lot of us are aging in place, like me. And I just wanted you to have a visual on what's happening. We have the people who want to come to the programming, and we don't have the space. Our exercise classes, which are 3 of them, have 55 people, and 40 is really the top that we can handle. And this is just January, and February our enrollments really go up. So we have a movie club that's 25 people and growing. I have a Socrates speaking group that is at 30 and often has gone to 50 on occasion. So there are a number of seniors here. So I know that the bond to build the senior center failed. I feel because what it was tied to, possibly if it stood on its own, or maybe in the future, this would take research to find out if we have the revenue from the seniors, which we probably don't, to do a revenue bond. But I just want us to understand that there is a great need out there for the seniors. That was important. So lastly is the charter school. And I know that the staff has worked really, really hard on working with the school and doing the feasibility study to find out if it should relocate. And I'd love for it to relocate because I don't care for where it is. But there are a number of people in the city who would be impacted by a move, and they need to be a part of this process. And I know that we have extended our reach to speak to residents about what's going on. And I realized that was, I think, the minimum requirement was like 80 or something, and you did like 400, which was impressive. What my concern is I don't think it's reaching the right people. And I'd like to pass this. This is public record. This was the notice that was sent to residents, but this is the map for notification. And I just think that map needs to be wider in the future so that we are including more people who are involved. Because although that's wide, most of it's the field. So although I know you work really, really hard and I appreciate it, I just would like to see more of the people who are affected by it coming off of, I think it's 99th, in those subdivisions, because those are the roads that are going to be impacted.
So just so everyone is well aware, that's, and I fully understand Vice Mayor's issue, but that is well above what the legal requirement is, so no one
Right,
has any
and I
concern.
understand
just want to
that.
make
I
sure.
understand
Yep.
we have exceeded the legal requirement
We
and
have.
done a good job, but the people who are affected are not being reached. And I think that's important that we do reach them when we have discussions.
The people that are affected are not being reached?
Right. If you look at that map, you can see the subdivisions like Village Green, not Village Green, it's Village something, and Rosewood, and there's a beach something, like off of
I mean,
99th.
The people that are there, that are in here, are definitely being affected, so they are being reached. But, I mean, as far as moving to school or any new project in the city, there are a lot of people that are not going to be given a letter, but are going to be affected. But they're directly affected by state law. They define that based off of, if we can ask the city attorney, what's the legal definition where we have to send out to, how many feet out?
I think the legal is actually, the state legal is 300, we've always done 400, and in this case, we've gone to over, was it 400?
Yeah, it's 400.
Yeah, okay.
My concern is like when you're off of 99th and you have those finger roads and they're dead ends. So they're pretty small. I mean, there's not a whole, I don't think there's a whole lot more people back there, but every one of those people are going to be affected by the traffic on 99th. And that's why, yes, Commissioner.
I struggle with
Vignola.
this because I understand, and for those that don't know, this is the, I don't know if you can see, but Mullins Park, the area around Mullins Park, right? And the yellow area is what we're talking about, but understand all the people that drive on University and Sample Road every single day that are
Yeah.
affected by the charter school that are there now, that are probably a lot more affected, the people that drive that traffic every day, than some of the people that live out in these neighborhoods. Because they might not be out there when school goes in, right? School starts at 7:30, and maybe some people aren't leaving for work until 7:35. And one of the unique things I think about the charter school is if you go there at 7:27, when the kids got to be in class by 7:30, there's not a car in line. There's not a car. It's not like the other schools because there's actual consequences if you're late to class. So if we're talking about these people being affected, I think on the flip side, I mean, what about the people that are going ahead that drive through this traffic every day in the school zone that gets slowed down and miss the lights? I mean, there's a lot more people there than this. I mean, if we start opening this up with this, I mean, I think someone had mentioned earlier Pandora's box. I think we can end up in that type of situation. So I would personally be against that. I think we've had this discussion for, I believe, almost 7 years now. In fact, I believe there are kids that will be graduating this charter, almost 7 years now, almost 8 years. There are kids that will be graduating the charter school this year that were told when they were going into 6th grade that, hey, we're going to have you a new facility. And when we take a look at the education level of that school and that facility, what they get in the old rundown mall is amazing, and it's time for a facility that matches. And to go ahead and go backwards and send out more notifications and do the whole thing, it's been
No,
more
I'm
money than
talking
that. I
about
think it's
going
kind of.
forward, not going back.
I would be against it personally. I think, there's always gonna be people in favor and against, but I mean, at what point do we draw a line and say this is it? If we're going, a third more, 33% more than what the state law requires, I'm okay with that. I think that's enough.
Yeah, but the majority of the space is a field.
Those are the people that are directly affected. When we look at any project like that, that could happen.
All All right, so if you have, nobody brought up all the events that we have coming up, so there are a lot of things coming up in Coral Springs, so go to coralsprings.org/events. There's a couple this month and then next month, and if you need to reach me, it's 954-998-4186 or joycarter@coralsprings.org. Mr. City Manager,
No report.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to announce tonight that we have a brownfield designation that will be coming before you. It's going to come before you by Sawgrass Development Partners, LLC. And we've done this before. What a brownfield designation is a property that has environmental issues that an owner wants to develop. In this case, the request from the Sawgrass Development Developers, Inc. is from the former Coral Springs landfill. It abuts the Sawgrass, south of Wiles, north of Sample. It's an old landfill that we have had obligations to monitor since 1993, when we entered into an agreement. And WCI had some obligations to clean up, and they're no longer here. They went through a bankruptcy, and they're not responsive to it, the company that's came out of that bankruptcy. So for us, this is very good news. They want to develop it, but in order to do that, they're going to have to completely clean it. So that's going to be coming before you. They're also going to be indemnifying us, insuring us, and taking away our obligations. So this is going to come before you by resolution. It's going to require 2 public hearings, which we have scheduled for February 6th, 2019, and February 20th, 2019. These developers have done this before throughout the Tri-County area, and they are going to have a community meeting in City Hall in the Everglades Room, which they will notice, and we'll get that out there. So I think if you talk to our staff, this is good news for the city, since this now will affirmatively clean this property.
Good, very good.
Thank you.
Any additional comments or discussion? No, this meeting is adjourned.